Welcome to Gorilla Sports Off Court. I am your host, and in just a bit, I'm Liv Moods. I should have said that. I am your host, Liv Moods, and in just a bit, I will be joined by Brandon Cristal to break down all things Denver Nuggets after that very, very convincing win. But this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. So head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gorilla Sports Off Court, a post-game live reaction following the Nuggets on the road for the second time against the Dallas Mavericks since Sunday. They took down the Mavs on Sunday without Luka Doncic, and they did it again tonight, but they did it in a very convincing way, not just because of the score, but because we saw some really great offensive performances by some of the stars that we have been waiting on showing up for this Denver Nuggets team. You know him by the name of Jamal Murray, but based on what we saw in this game, he was definitely giving those blue arrow vibes back. Is this the return of the prime Jamal Murray? I sure hope so. It certainly seems that way with 45 points for him tonight. He really couldn't be stopped. Outside of that third quarter, he slowed down in that third quarter, but again, ending with 45 after the slower start to this season that we saw from him is a really great feeling. And even more than that, Nuggets fans, you have some really exciting stuff to be excited about here, because one of the largest concerns for this Nuggets team for some time was their defense or lack thereof. But in this game, the leading scorer for this Mavericks team was Gafford off the bench with only 13 points. Yes, they were without Luka Doncic, and I'm sure things would probably look a little different. I'm not saying they would have won, but I am saying I'm sure Luka would have scored more than 13 points. However, the leading scorer for the Dallas Mavericks with only 13 points, and Jamal Murray, who has felt like he's been in a rut as of late, finally finding some rhythm. He's been heating up, and 45 is the best we've seen. And I think it was a career high for him in that first half with 32 points. So Jamal Murray looked exceptional in this one. The Nuggets overall looked exceptional. And I truly believe that this team, if we can get this version of Jamal and continue on this path with their defensive identity, this is a contending team. Mark my words. That being said, I do have a very special guest joining me, the other Nuggets host who has been doing a lot for us at Gorilla Sports in terms of covering the Broncos, covering the Nuggets. So he's been pretty busy. Here he is, Brandon Cristal, joining me for this post-game live reaction show to talk Nuggets on the road facing the Mavs. BK, this is the second time since Sunday we've seen this Nuggets team beat the Mavs, but compete against the Mavs. What are some of your biggest takeaways after watching the game tonight?
Well, one is that my friends in my hometown of Dallas, and I know you as a proud TCU Horned Frog have plenty of friends that are also from the Metroplex that are bummed by what they've seen, although they'll qualify, just like I think Nuggets fans will do rightfully if Joker misses games and they say, hey, Luka didn't play in either of these games. The Nuggets were goofing around on Sunday, I guess, and obviously we were pretty intent on keeping locked in on what the Broncos were doing, but with also one eye on the Nuggets falling behind by 19 and then having their biggest comeback of the year to win by double digits. But tonight it was from the jump. You know, you had the Derek Lively dunk right off the rip, and then it was, you look up and it's 19-6, and then it's 21-8, you know, and it just kept going. And then you're up 71-45 at halftime. You get 19 from Jamal in the first quarter, 32 in the first half. And so if you're watching the game on TNT or Max, or I guess maybe it was on True TV, but whatever it was on, you're watching it, and then Shaq taking partial credit for Jamal's performance because he's been calling him out. I mean, I guess if he's going to do that, you should also do it because you've been calling him out maybe more than just about anybody. But if you're going to get that from Jamal Murray, I think this is where Shaq completely nailed it. Shaq and Jalen Rose both, where they said if the Nuggets can get this version of Jamal Murray consistently with the pieces around him and what you're getting from Russell Westbrook, now getting Aaron Gordon back healthy and having the best player in the league, that they're going to win their second championship. And to think about where we were talking about Jamal and this team in October and how frustrating as they went into November his performances were, and it's not like he's been lighting it up all of a sudden, But when he reminds us that he still has 40-plus point games, knowing what he's capable of in the playoffs, it's got to get you excited.
Absolutely. And I am overjoyed by what we saw from Jamal Murray tonight. And I am one that, while I am hard on my favorite teams and players, I can give credit where it's due. I can give flowers to Jamal Murray based on what we saw from him tonight. However, I got a lot of Twitter notifications tonight of a lot of idiots. I'm going to call them idiots because that's exactly how it felt when the notification popped up on my phone, was people saying, "Weren't you calling for him to be traded just a few weeks ago?" You're right. He also wasn't scoring 45 points in those games either. So yes, there was a very valid conversation that was being had about Jamal Murray, and for good reason. I'm not going to forget about the fact that this was a max contract starting point guard who has won a championship ring, that was scoring 13 points in some games or 12 points in some games, who was going 1 of 6 from the 3-point line. So I really want to just put it out there at the top of the show that anybody that comes into this comment section, and you're totally free to do so, freedom of speech, we respect everybody's rights here at Guerrilla Sports. You are absolutely entitled to your right to get in the comment section and say whatever you want to say. But let's not pretend like when I said those things, Jamal was scoring 45 and I was just being a hater. Jamal was not playing the way that he's playing right now a few weeks ago when I had mentioned potentially trading Jamal Murray. So let's not pretend like I was just like pulling things out of my behind and I was making things up. We did not get this version of Jamal for a long time to start this season. We also saw a very, unenthusiastic version of Jamal in last year's postseason and in Paris. So let's not act like I just pulled this out of thin air and all of a sudden I was a hater for no reason. We had good reason to be doubting Jamal. It's not like any person, myself or Shaq, if you want to, if Shaq wants to give himself credit, fine. We were hard on Jamal because we weren't getting what we thought we deserved, either as fans or this Nuggets team who just paid him a lot of money. So I've already gotten plenty of tweets. And again, I'm fine with them. It is what it is. If you're gonna talk trash as much as I do, you have to expect it in return here and there. And I totally acknowledge that. But let's not be naive to the fact that this was not the version we were getting when there were plenty of people talking about what does Jamal Murray's future look like in Denver. That was a very reasonable conversation that I believe we were having at that time. Now it's like, okay, I can get behind this. First of all, I never wanted to get rid of Jamal Murray. That was never my want. Did I feel like it was potentially necessary based on what we were seeing? Yeah, of course. But when you've got a Jamal Murray shooting 95.5% true shooting at halftime, yeah, hell no, I don't want him going anywhere. I want this version of Jamal to stay in Denver and to help this team win a championship. But when he wasn't performing this way, and not only was he not performing this way, because this is like the high end of the star power in the NBA, right? To score 45 points and to be 95.5% true shooting at halftime, that's not a common thing. That's actually the higher end of what you expect from these teams or from these players in such a star-driven league. We were getting not even like the average of what you would expect from Jamal, right? There were some games in there where it was like significantly below the expectations that we had. And like you said, a max contract, we talked about this a long time ago and you brought this to my attention. A max contract sometimes is a reward for what you've done for a team, right? It would be very jaded of me to not give Jamal Murray heaps of credit for helping this Nuggets team win a championship. However, while it is also a reward for what he has done in the past, the expectation is that you at least maintain who you were in in those years that you're being rewarded for. We weren't even getting the maintenance from Jamal Murray. We were getting something significantly lower than that. So for all the people out there that want me to sit here and swallow my words, I'm not going to. I was speaking about what I was seeing from him and what we were seeing from him at the time that we were talking about the potential of trading him, which I know wasn't possible this season. And it was going to be something that had to be talked about on the business back end side of things. But when those conversations were around, I felt like they were warranted. But BK, where are you at right now with Jamal Murray? We've slowly seen him heating up. He's definitely a much better version of himself than maybe how he started this season. And tonight feels like the blue arrow might be making a return.
Yeah, I guess the more interesting thing to do, or the thing we're going to have to do, is going to be to follow him for the month of January. And let's have
Yep.
this conversation again in 3 weeks when the month is over. And if he has not another 45-point game, but a couple 30-point games in there, some
Yeah.
28, 29-point games, then you got to feel a lot better. And then it starts getting louder of, oh, is Jamal Murray going to be added to the all-star team by the commissioner? Because he's just not going to be an all-star. His numbers don't warrant that. He's averaging 19 points a game. That's 43rd best in the league. 4
Right.
rebounds. That's not great. His 6 assists, is that really 18th best in the NBA? If that's the case, it just lets you know that the art of the assist is dead. Don't
Yeah.
tell Joker that, but
The
I
art
just
form is gone unless you're
yeah
Nikola Jokic.
yeah. And so if that's true, and who is it? Someone else is maybe Trey Young averaging 12 assists a game, perhaps, which I think is leading the league. I need
Sounds
to double
about right.
check that. But once Jamal shows you this, you have to at least be relieved, because I go back
Yeah.
to when Bill Simmons was in town, and he and Ryan Russillo did their podcast, and they're worried that any version of Jamal that's like this doesn't exist anymore. And that was sort of their takeaway after watching him up close in Tuesday night game a few weeks back. I just can't remember who the game was, but I remember I was there and saw those dudes and talked to him for a little bit. But the point being, they clearly do, or Jamal clearly does have more in the tank. And when he's finding ways to score as easily and as comfortably, you have to hope that, okay, does his body feel okay? And is this just going to be what we're going to see more of? And he's going to
Yeah.
average closer to 25. And I guess that's what I was getting at. I was, I did it the long way, but he had 45 tonight. He had 17 on Sunday. He had 7 in the win over Brooklyn on Friday. He had 21, 19, 13, 14, 21. Just going back to the start of the month, let's see now, the eight games they've played in the month of January. And so, or I'm sorry, 9 games. In those 9 games, that's a lot of games in 14 days, isn't it? But they're winning most of them. They won 7 of those 9 since the calendar turned to 2025. I think it calms Nuggets fans down. But
For sure.
the more interesting conversation, and Aaron Gordon talked to the media after the game Sunday and said he didn't care whether he's coming off the bench or starting as long as he's contributing in a win. And we were quick to kick Christian Brown off the starting 5. I understand he's on a minutes restriction right now, but maybe playing Aaron Gordon coming off the bench gives you already have DJ, but it just gives you a different element, and he certainly can handle
Yeah.
the whatever you want to call it, the ego portion of coming off the bench, whereas Christian Brown has earned the right to start. And so you don't necessarily want to take that away from him. Not that it would affect his personality either.
Right.
And you're not going to bench MPJ, because I do think it would affect his personality as well as he's played. And he had a really good interview with Jim Rome today. But I think that this should calm Nuggets fans down. I know you're one of the biggest Nuggets fans I know. And if we can start seeing this version of Jamal, you'll have more people like Shaq, like Jalen Rose, like Chuck and Kenny, like Stephen A. Smith, and we can go down the list. Just national NBA talking heads that are talking up the Nuggets of, okay, if you're going to get this Jamal, that's why they paid him $200 million, maxed him out, and that's why they are going to be a very tough out and a favorite to win their second championship here in 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this to me, what I saw from this Nuggets team tonight in terms of defense and holding such there's a lot of talent. Take Luka out of the picture. There's a lot of shooters on this Mavericks team. And so to be able to have their leading scorer with only 13 points definitely shows some significant improvement in this defense for this Nuggets team. I mean, if we want to just flash back a little bit to some of the opponents that the Nuggets have had over the course of their season as a whole, there haven't been a ton of, some of the games where they've allowed 120, 130 points weren't against opponents that you would normally see scoring 130, 120 points. I mean, so much of that was just their defense lacking. They only allowed 99 to the Mavs tonight, 101 to the Mavs on Sunday, 105 to the Nets. The Clippers, 103, they allowed 118 to the Celtics, but we know The Celtics are the current NBA champions until somebody comes and takes that title away from them. We've slowly seen some progress in the defense that we're seeing from this Denver Nuggets team. I mean, earlier in the season, you had teams, I mean, I'm looking through it right now, and 129 to the Pelicans, and they were injury riddled. We had a lot of games where you were allowing some teams that, and those were the games that felt like they dropped. Those were winnable games against opponents that you just expected the Nuggets to beat, but they couldn't, because while their offense was maybe working and they were averaging 120 per night, and their offense was looking really great, because anytime you've got Nikola Jokic on the floor, I think your offense is going to look pretty great. We couldn't get stops defensively, and so we were allowing opponents that really had no business hanging with the Nuggets. At one point in this game tonight, the Nuggets lead was as big as 31 points. And then we saw in that fourth quarter, BK, I think it got as close as like 14, maybe 14 points they were up. And so you do start to see that slip up a little bit in the second half. You and I were texting a little bit. While we did see such an electric start from Jamal Murray in that first half, we did see him struggle a little bit more offensively in the third quarter. What did you say? I think you texted me and said he had only scored 4 points in the third quarter, which they were up by a lot.
Yeah, sort of tongue in cheek. You didn't need him to. You didn't need him to go nuts and get you a 50-point, 60-point night, because you're up 71, 45. Right. And even though Kyrie was back after not playing the other day, the Mavs just aren't the same without Luka and not maybe 100% Kyrie, or Kyrie back up to speed totally. And what was Kyrie's total minutes by the end of the night? He played 30 minutes, which was the most of any Mavericks player. But they just, Klay Thompson wasn't really killing you. He was 3 of 8 from the field, 2 of 6 from the line. It just wasn't going to be their night. Plus Lively rolls his ankle. And so the Nuggets could be in cruise control, but Jamal still was out there in the fourth to close it out and solidify the 20-point lead. Obviously it was a 19-point win, but they didn't need that from Jamal. Had he gone for 50 plus, then it's a different conversation, I guess. There's a couple things though that I want to get back to. Well, so the Russ starting thing, and they were talking about that at halftime as well, that we're starting to see them get out of the gate early. Jamal gets to play off of the ball, so he's more of a 2 guard than a point guard in that instance anyway, but he can't obviously pass the ball. We understand that. Joker's probably the best passer in the game. I guess you're Trae Young right now. But it just gives them a spark from the jump. And I think that Michael Malone's going to find a way to stick with this.
I hope so.
Look at this other BK from Orlando who does afternoon drive there.
We'll have to have him on our show. Maybe we'll have him on the show.
We should. Magic Nuggets Sunday. Look, other BK, we don't have any Broncos to talk about, so I'm sure Liv and I will hop on and chat about the game post game. So we'd love to have you on whenever awesome. the post game ends for him down there, if he's doing post after that game. There's obviously a lot of NFL action as well. The dumb schedule makers. The Nuggets were home. They go to Dallas for 2 games. We've seen the double games in Memphis. We'll see it here and there now. It's become kind of a normal thing. Back to Denver tomorrow night to take on Houston, even though they could have just taken a 20-minute flight from Dallas to Houston tonight, played that game, and then headed to Florida. But instead, they're going to head to Florida for a game Friday night against the Heat, swing back up to Orlando, and then back over to Denver Tuesday to take on the Sixers. Will Joel Embiid play? Probably not. He's never played in Denver than anybody can remember.
Are you kidding me? That little chicken won't be here. Are you kidding?
All right, but other BK, Brandon Kravitz, who does a great job in Orlando.
Yes, well, you know what? And even if we don't do Sunday, we could maybe find some time Thursday.
Or Monday just on the show.
Or Monday on the show. We have Monday, Thursdays, the other BK, the Orlando BK. We've got Mondays and Thursdays where we do our regularly scheduled.
And based on when his show starts, we do our show at noon. That's 2 his time. You can hop on right before his show starts at 3.
We would love to have you.
That would be great, because I've been a guest on his show many times and haven't had as much a reason to talk Orlando. But they are led by Jamal Mosley, former Buff, and Tristan Da Silva is playing like a rookie of the year there. And now they got
KCP.
And KCP's there. Paolo Banchero's back healthy. Orlando obviously made a little bit of noise in the playoffs last year. maybe they make a bigger jump this year. They're obviously gonna have to watch out for Cleveland and of course the Celtics, but
Of course.
I like what they're doing there.
I do too.
Although I guess is Franz Wagner hurt, I think maybe. Either way, other BK, thanks for tuning in, and we will happily chat with you either Sunday or Monday, depending on what works best for all of us. But
yes, please, I would love it.
So the Russ thing is, it feels like you have to stay with it because of what
100%.
you're getting on really both sides of the ball. You were talking about the defense, and I was going to try and pull up some defensive numbers. That's been obviously been better just based on those rundown of scores that you gave. And so now you're going to have a good test here just coming up against an upstart Rockets team that certainly surprised some people. Then the two teams in Florida can fill it up. And so can you keep them right around 100? If you can hold a team to about 103 or less, it used to always be hold a team under 100. Well, now it's hold them under 103, under 105. You're doing good. And we know that Nuggets can score. So this is, as the calendar turned and what we've seen here in 2025, it's been more exciting, especially as we know football season's winding down. It's certainly going to be 3 more weeks of what we hope are great playoff games and all that. And we know hockey's, firing on all cylinders too. But this is exciting for the Nugs. So much so, we got second returns in on All-Stars. Joker leading the West again, 2.27 million votes, and then Giannis leading all voters with 2.72. But good to see that it only took 3 MVPs for Joker to get the respect he's so well deserved.
Yeah, very deserved. You mentioned a little bit, BK, from the NBA as a whole. If you can hold teams to 105, 103 or less, you're in a pretty good spot as a defensive team and a force to be reckoned with. After the Clippers game, of course, they allowed 118 against the Clippers at home and lost that game. But since the Clippers game, 103 to the Clippers. I'm sorry, the Celtics game. Since the loss to the Celtics, where they allowed 118 points to be scored by the Boston Celtics, the current NBA champions, since then, allowed 103 to the Clippers, 105 to the Nets, 101 to the Mavs in the first game on Sunday, and 99 to the Mavs again in their second game on this road trip tonight. So again, we're seeing immense improvement defensively by this Nuggets team. The defense was something I was wildly concerned about because we know in the Nuggets 2023 championship run, their defense was arguably just as strong as their offense was, and that's why they just felt unstoppable in so many ways. So to see this defense finding some rhythm, finding some groove, you and I talk often about the idea that defense is relatively simple. When you really break it down and you look at what defense is, it doesn't always require a ton of skill, but it does require 2 things we talk about a lot, which is effort and communication. And I think what we're seeing with Russ in the starting lineup is an elevation in those 2 categories. I think we're seeing, yes, I will say Russell Westbrook still turns the ball over, but I talked with you on the last show about the fact that a lot of those turnovers don't feel like his fault. I think these players have to understand and recognize that Russell Westbrook is a lot more similar to Nikola Jokic than we maybe thought he was. They see the game in a very similar way. They understand ball in a very similar way. And Russell Westbrook is one of those guys where you have to stay ready at all times when he's facilitating the offense. So I think with time, we're going to see this Nuggets team start clicking with Russ the same way they click with Nikola Jokic. And the seamlessness that we see between Russell Westbrook and Nikola Jokic right now will spread amongst the team. And what we're also seeing with Russ as a starter is that effort. The pace has increased. I think he's actually increased Jamal Murray's pace a little bit, just by being Russell Westbrook and playing the game with this constant championship mindset. He never wavers in his effort. It is always 100% foot on the gas at all times. And if I, as a fan watching the game from my living room, feel a sense of contagious energy from Russell Westbrook, I can only imagine how he feels having him as a teammate and a leader in both the locker room, on the bench, or in the starting lineup. So what we're seeing is, in my opinion, the Russ effect. When you have Russell Westbrook as a starter, to your point, I don't know why you wouldn't keep Russell Westbrook as a starter. To be honest, to not have him as a starter would feel very foolish at this point in time, because what you're seeing with him as a starter is results. You're seeing the results that Nuggets fans have been waiting for, which is that effort, that communication, that seamlessness, that quicker pace to begin a game, that defensive hustle. We're seeing all of the things that the Nuggets needed to work on so desperately in order to be considered a contender. We're seeing them now translate, and I think so much of that is having Russell Westbrook as a starter. I want to ask you, BK, I've talked a few times on some of these post-game lives lately about the idea of just how important the month of January is for not just the Nuggets, but a lot of teams in general. The Nuggets have 17 total games in the month of January, 8 at home, 9 on the road. And most, if not all, of the opponents that they face in the month of January are teams above 500. So they're good opponents, and they're going to be some tough competition. But I think the month of January is important for a lot of NBA teams to kind of solidify their identity and prove whether they are contenders or pretenders. So BK, I ask you, in this moment, as it stands right now, do you feel like this Nuggets team, and chat, get in the comment section and let me know as well. We'll flash some of your answers up on the screen. Is this Nuggets team contenders or pretenders as it stands right now?
Oh, I think they're 100% contenders.
I
And
agree.
if you think anything other than that, you're just being a hater, like the one friend in the chat that said Colorado sucks ass. I don't know if he's talking about the whole state or what, but I don't think you or I are going to lose sleep. But you get the Nuggets winning tonight against one of the best teams in basketball, certainly a team that will be forced to be reckoned with, just like they were last year in the playoffs. You have to think representing the Western Conference and going all the way to the finals. And then we know our friends Jesse and Megan are at the Avs game tonight. Well, they were down 2-1, force overtime, get overtime winner from Devon Taves, and they keep winning. So, and the Nuggets or the Broncos were just in the playoffs. So I'm not sure what the metrics are. And it's snowing a lot. And it's good to go skiing right now. So regardless, your Nuggets are sitting fourth at 24-15. They're 2.5 games clear of the Clippers, 2.5 games clear of the Mavs with tiebreakers now. Assuming they're done playing the Mavs, I know it gets a little wonky because of the NBA Cup stuff. But if they're done playing the Mavs, I just haven't looked at the schedule, they have the tiebreaker because they beat them 3 out of 4 times, right? They split here, and then you get the 2 in Dallas. The Lakers are 4 games behind, or 3 full games behind the Nuggets. So are the T-Wolves. Then you go Spurs, Kings. So the Nuggets are creating a little separation. We'll see what happens with the Rockets, who are a couple games ahead of them. I was just going to say,
I'm excited to see this Nuggets team against the Rockets this month. And then I do know for a fact, I'm not sure about road games, but I do know that the Nuggets will face the Grizzlies at the beginning of April. And that is another game I'm looking forward to, because when we watched the Nuggets play the Grizzlies, did they play the Grizzlies yet this season? I think they did.
Twice, no Ja.
Right. Ja Morant was not playing. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm thinking about the teams
Neither was Joker.
ahead of the Nuggets right now.
Neither was Joker, though.
Correct. Yep. So that makes a difference. But I'm excited to see what this Nuggets team looks like against the teams that are currently ahead of them in the Western Conference, because right now it just feels like this Nuggets team is really finding their groove and their momentum at the absolute perfect time. I think the month of January is a really big deal. We know All-Star break is going to fall towards the beginning of February. Following the Super Bowl, you're going to have the All-Star break, and that's a good opportunity to kind of check yourself as a fan and also check your team a little bit and go, all right, who are we at this point in the season? Because, as much as it feels like there's a long season ahead, BK, this stuff matters. We talk about this a lot. You talk about how, hey, some of these games that we dropped early might bite us in the butt down the road if the Western Conference is as much of a bloodbath as you and I believe it will be. So this, to me, January, I'm not saying they shouldn't take it seriously starting in October. They should always take it seriously, of course. But the month of January, to me, is where you really start to see contenders versus pretenders. I want to now ask you, BK, you're a very intelligent man, and you know a lot of stuff, and you know a lot of stats.
I agree 100%.
I agree. Yes, you're very, very smart, very intelligent. Who would you say right now feels like they're starting to become a pretender in the Western Conference?
I just don't trust the Lakers because AD's battling through stuff, and I give him credit, especially because he's the linchpin of my fantasy team. And I'm 10-0-1, 2 games clear of everybody else because we go week to week with the scoring.
Hell yeah! See what I said, you guys? Intelligent. That's an intelligent man right there.
But I I need to see it from the Rockets and Grizzlies, because the Grizzlies haven't been there with the Ja stuff off the court. Ja stuff off the court that's kept him off the court and being banged up here and there. I don't think you can trust them. The Clippers are a different team if Kawhi Leonard can return to the Kawhi Leonard we've seen at the peak of his powers. The Suns are sitting a game below 500. There's no way the Spurs or T-Wolves scare you at this point. The Mavs are the ones that it depends on what you're getting from Luka and Kyrie, because they can't win a championship with just one of those guys. And even last year with both of them, they still weren't able to get over that hump. The Thunder are absolutely real contenders, but coming out of the West, you can't trust the Warriors anymore. They're down there with the Suns. I certainly wouldn't want to have to play those teams in the playoffs, depending on how healthy guys like Steph and KD are and all that.
Right.
But it feels like if we're going to have to boil it down to teams that can win a championship this year, and it goes back to a conversation I had as they were kind of struggling through November, but talking with Scott Hastings in the post-game media press conference room after Michael Malone, but before whatever player came in first, he's like, look, there's only so many teams that can really win it. So it's not about turning it on or off. It's about just knowing how to win. And you look in the East, can the Cavs make that jump at 34-5? You know that they're going to be a buzzsaw early in the playoffs as well. The Celtics obviously can. The Knicks, you want to see him with Cat, who's going to be an all-star starter this year, probably for the first time in his career, if memory serves me right. Talked about that Magic team. They're sitting in the 4th spot. Did they learn enough last year in that series with the Cavs that they could jump up and win a championship? And I'm kind of answering your question in reverse. There's only a handful of teams I think that can really win it. The Bucks, because of who Dame Lillard is and because Giannis and Chris Middleton have been there, you can't count the Bucks out. But then you can't put the Pacers there. The Heat are a mess with the Jimmy Butler stuff. And then you just go from there. It's cool to see the Pistons above 500 in the playoffs as it stands right now. But it's like there's 2 to 4 teams in the East, if you want to give me the Magic. And the Bucks, I just need to see it from the Knicks. Maybe, I guess, not only healthy Cat, but also with a healthy Jalen Brunson. That's 2 guys that can get you to the finals and probably then win it once you're there. But it feels like there's still only about 6 teams that can really win it right now. We can be proven otherwise. And so I'm not calling the Houston pretenders yet. I just need to see them do something in the playoffs. It's weird that a team would go from being out of the playoffs to in the finals.
Right. That would be a big ask for sure. I want to go back again to the Nuggets. I would argue the West, because we know Cavs, Celtics sit at the top of the Eastern Conference right now, right? And then it feels like there's a very large drop between them and the rest of the Eastern Conference. I'm not saying it's going to stay that way, but that's certainly how it feels right now. Whereas this Western Conference, any day you refresh the standings, it's going to look different. That's how close of a race it feels like it is. So I definitely fear more Western Conference teams than I do Eastern Conference teams. Humor me, BK. Let's talk about this high wisdom comment here. Who's winning in the Western Conference Finals, OKC versus Nuggets? Who are you giving the edge to?
Well, the one thing that we're seeing with OKC is that it doesn't feel like the Hartenstein thing's really working yet. And so that's concerning. But SGA he's got a cape that he can put on.
Oh, yeah.
And so because of that, and with what they have and the relentlessness, they remind me of the Cavs to some degree, which is like nonstop. And I understand the Cavs rely on the 3 more than OKC. OKC is constantly attacking, but also getting really good shots. And so I think that I will be surprised at this point. I think high wisdom is absolutely right. I'll be surprised. And honestly, the only thing that would derail this would be injuries on either side. And you don't want to see that, of course.
Of course.
If it's not OKC and the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals for a chance to go represent the West against the East in the finals. And so I think that if you're going to get this Jamal Murray, which you haven't had yet against OKC, and Russell Westbrook starting and just being more comfortable, everybody being more comfortable with him. And that's going to be, it'll be interesting to see how they talk about it, because we have felt like Russ's presence has affected Jamal. And talking to some people that are part of the team, I get that sense too, that Jamal just hadn't figured it out. But I think the more time they've spent together,
Yeah.
the more they see how each other is wired. And odds are Russ has figured out how to get through to Jamal, and Jamal has realized that Russ isn't there to take his job, especially
He's there to help him.
when they're playing together,
Yeah.
and that he and Joker do kind of see the game the same way. And so it's pretty wild that a guy that's 36, 37 years old in year 17 is as big a factor, but it's a credit to Russ for the phenomenal athlete that he is and the condition that he's been able to keep,
Yep.
the shape that he's been able to stay in. If he can give you this, and there's no reason to think that he can't, again, barring something that we don't want to see happen, then it just changes things. And it also takes a little bit of pressure off Aaron Gordon and off of MPJ and off of Christian Brown. You know that you're going to get a little bit from DeAndre Jordan as well here and there. And Peyton Watson is continuing to grow, but less pressure on Peyton and on Julian Strother. And it's just, it feels like it's starting to come together like we talked about earlier. And you said that. And it's hard to say anything, but if I can make it over there in time tomorrow pregame, that's the plan. And, we're going to cover the game, and then you and I'll chat postgame as well. I want to ask Michael Malone, because he's constantly trying to push buttons. And he said that he wants to see Jamal Murray be an all-star, make an all-NBA team. He said that for a few years now. And so when you have a 45-point game, my question to Michael Malone would be, what does it take to get this from Jamal more consistently? Not the 45-point game, but kind of what we talked about, the 30-plus point game, 28, 29, back-to-back nights. And I'll be curious to see how he answers it if I can ask him that. And we'll see what Jamal does in the back-to-back tomorrow as well, because I'll certainly be there post-game to talk to Coach. But that would be my question for him pregame, is how do you get that version of Jamal that we got in Dallas 3 out of 4 nights most weeks when you're playing 4 games over 7-8 days, whatever it may be.
Well, here's a funny response from a user named Michael M. Anti-inflammatories, it says.
That's the key.
That's how you get Jamal Murray. Listen, I will say, let's give some credit where it's due, or I will, because I am very tough on Jamal. This fantastic performance was coming after he only played 16 minutes the other night, leaving with knee soreness. I think that was against the Nets, I believe.
So on Friday, yeah.
Yeah. So, we know he's injury prone from time to time, and we know, again, the momentum that the Nuggets are starting to get, I think, can be credited to a lot of things. One of which is you have Russ as a starter. 2, you're getting a better version of Jamal. 3, let's not forget Aaron Gordon back in the mix. How has that been for you, watching him back out there and those little concerns that this Nuggets team had? I think, honestly, most Nuggets fans, I'm speaking for myself here as well, kind of forgot about Aaron Gordon not being there, just because it had been over half of the season we didn't have Aaron Gordon. So you kind of just got used to Nuggets basketball without AG. He's back. He's crucial. He is coming off of the bench right now. He's not starting, but we know how valuable he can be and how important he is to this team. What do you think he's going to impact in a positive way? Some of those things we've talked about as concerns for this Nuggets team. Do you think Aaron Gordon could be, you get him healthy, you get him playing the rest of the season, and are there no more concerns for this Nuggets team?
To say no more concerns, I think you're always going to be.
Of course. I'll find something to bitch about. Let's be
generally
real.
Concerned. And I dug into the defensive numbers. So on the season, they are ranked 17th out of the 30 teams. So that's below half, just slightly below the middle point. Last year, as Michael Owens pointed out, they were number 8. So you're a top 10 team. Now, in the last, well, not last month, the last 9 games, the turn of the year, as I broke down those numbers, and obviously the big ones to a win over Atlanta, but with Cleveland in there, and with obviously with the Celtics in there, you give up, the 120 in the win, you give up 118 in the loss.
Right.
It averages out, though, if my math is right, to 111. So you're already better by a bucket a game, and it's trending in a direction you want to see it in. So Aaron Gordon will continue to help that number too.
Right.
Because where Nikola Jokic is the ultimate problem solver on offense, and he has the answers, every answer to every test. It's just how long does it take him to finish it?
Right.
Aaron Gordon, I don't say erases a lot of problems, but kind of helps cover up and make up for some of your deficiencies, especially if he continues to stay with the second unit.
He minimizes things for sure.
And so I think that it's also one more kind of adult, if you will, on that second unit. With apologies to Peyton Watson and Julian Strother, and even Zeke Najee's there. Look, you got 16 minutes from DeAndre Jordan a night. You're just not going to get that every night, but you're going to get it a few nights. And in a 7-game series where there's a break, if you're getting DeAndre Jordan to contribute in 3 of 7 games, that's probably, or 3 of the 4 wins you'll need, then I think that you're going to feel really good about where this team is in April and May when they get into the playoffs. So having Aaron Gordon back calms things down and just gives you one more leader on the floor, on the bench that isn't in street clothes, that can come out and do something. And so that's
although his street clothes are very fashionable, high fashion.
There's no doubt. And look, Aaron Gordon's been fashionable since he got in the league, but you wonder with Russell Westbrook's arrival, did Aaron Gordon make a point of like flying to Paris and going to LA and New York and Miami and making sure that he has the latest and greatest fashion that he could possibly have in this instance?
Of course. I mean, hell, I think Russell Westbrook being a Denver Nuggets made me want to up my fashion a little bit, and I'm not even on the team with him. I'm just a fan that watches. I will say that you bring up a really great
dressing like Russ though, real quick, because I'm not saying you couldn't pull off like bell-bottom jeans and stuff. You probably have some, but Russ's stuff is way out there. And look, MPJ, he can go out there a little bit too. It is funny that Jamal Murray loves the UFC because he kind of dresses like you would expect a UFC fighter to dress. Like he's mostly in jeans, sometimes baggy, whatever, and like a hoodie, and that's it. And then Joker wears these suits where he looks like he's in the Kingsman, these like bespoke suits because he's going to work. Or Despicable Me, And so it's just funny to think about, like Russ has been doing this forever, but to think about Russ and AG.
Russ takes risks with his clothing for sure, but
beyond that, he's just setting his own new standard.
Oh no. Yeah, no, for sure. And I've also said this many times because I was literally talking just the other day about Russ's outfits and how out there they can be. But honestly, when you are confident enough and you can wear the outfit and the outfit's not wearing you, I have nothing but respect for it. It's like, tear it up. I love it. Again, the way he's playing right now, that man can really do no wrong in my eyes at the moment. Like, I just love what he's bringing. And a word I haven't used yet to describe Russ being in Denver, but I really think it's pretty accurate. Russ has just brought some swag to Denver that I think they really needed. I'm talking the outfits, I'm talking the energy that they play with, I'm talking the way that they believe in themselves and carry themselves. I just think overall, 10 out of 10, absolutely a great decision to have Russell Westbrook here as a Denver Nugget. And to be honest with you, BK, you make a great point. I don't know how you don't keep him as a starter right now based on what you're seeing and the way in which he's playing and the way that he's elevating his teammates. I had said prior to the season starting that Jokic would help elevate Russell Westbrook's game. And while I do believe that is still happening, now we have to have a new conversation about Russell Westbrook elevating everybody else. Nikola Jokic, at this point, his teammates are used to playing with him. They know that he makes their lives easier. Now you've got Russ making Jokic's life easier a little bit. And in turn, it's just making a more seamless offense happen, and the team just seems to be clicking more. One last thing I want to leave you with, and then we can get out of here. I know we'll have plenty more to talk about tomorrow night because we'll have some clips we can run of coach and players, and we'll toss to you as well if you've got good Wi-Fi, and we'll have a longer show tomorrow night.
It all depends on my Wi-Fi and more about the Nuggets and the Avs and
that's right.
For whatever reason,
it's not technically
Wi-Fi.
BK's Wi-Fi. Yeah, let me put that out there.
That's on Josh and Stan.
Yeah. Not BK's Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi he will have or not have tomorrow. Let's put it that way. Really quick, want to ask you before we get out of here. I had mentioned on the show
Monday,
yesterday
when I was flying back from
Monday.
Buffalo.
Yeah, yesterday. That I felt like maybe Russell Westbrook could potentially hurt Nikola Jokic's chances at another MVP. Now, I know Jokic doesn't care about MVPs. I also know voter fatigue is very much a thing. But I would argue that what Russ is doing right now with the triple doubles and the defensive hustle and also helping facilitate and kind of lightening Jokic's load, because a lot of people that are watching the Nuggets right now feel the same way as I do, which is Russ is making Jokic's life easier. Is there a world where if we keep seeing Russ just skyrocket with this Nuggets team, you maybe lose some of that Jokic is the end all be all for the Denver Nuggets because he now has a little bit more consistent help. I'm not saying his chances are shot because Russell Westbrook is there and playing well, but I do think there's a world where the voter fatigue may be able to say, well, you had Russ who was also averaging some triple doubles throughout the season. I don't know. I just think I love seeing Russ play well. And again, I know Jokic does not care about MVP. I think he'd rather win a ring with his team. So if Russell Westbrook helps make that happen, so be it. But I do think maybe there's a world where we start to see Jokic become less and less of a favorite to win the award because he's got so much help in what Russell Westbrook is bringing to the team right now.
Yeah, I suppose that could end up affecting the voting. But Russ isn't going to be an all-star, we don't think. Jamal Murray's not going to be an all-star. MPJ, AG, Christian Brown. He doesn't have an all-star teammate, and he hasn't since he's been here. He goes to the all-star game every year by himself. When Melo was here, he had AI, he had Chauncey, and those guys would go to the all-star games together. And we just haven't had two all-stars here in Denver at the time. Obviously, Russ is going to the Hall of Fame, and he's been a 9-time all-star, but I don't think his last All-Star game was in 20 or 21. So he's not going back this year either. But what will, I think, maybe strengthen the All-Star, or I'm sorry, the MVP case is that Joker's numbers are so insane. And they did have this stat up when he hit it in the game. He's the fastest player to 15,000 career points, 7,500 rebounds, 5,000 assists, surpassing Larry Bird by 90 games. That he got there. So it's a full season that he got there before Larry Bird did. And so it gives you an idea of the company that he keeps. And every time Joker has hit milestones, I mean, he's chasing Russ, but he has passed, and I guess Oscar Robertson, but he's passed Magic Johnson. So he's passed all those people. He's going to go down as the best passing big man. He'll have more assists probably than any center in NBA history. And it'll be up to how long he plays to climb up those scoring charts and catch not only try to catch Kareem or LeBron or someone like that, and he probably just won't play long enough. But even the Dirk Nowitzkis and Karl Malones of the world, you just have to play a lot longer. So I don't expect that. But having Russ, the one thing that's going to help them with the way they're all playing now, or potentially playing, is they're just going to climb up the standings. And so we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Fair. Yeah, I think you can make a case on both sides for sure.
So my point is, if they catch Oklahoma City, and they've got a little bit of work to do, I still think 9.5 games back behind of the Thunder. So they have work to do there. They're going to see him a couple more times, but that will strengthen his case if all of a sudden they're a 1 or a 2 seed and his numbers are so crazy efficient. And you look down tonight, another triple double, but he only had 10 points. And I don't think he cared one bit that it was 10 and not 30. Can we go to crazy fashion though, again, real quick? I'm going to hold it to my camera because I saw these, and I don't know if this is Russ's influence or just life in the world, but James Harden was rocking those Louis Vuitton slipper boots. They're only $2,520. I don't know why they added the extra $20 on there, but they're $2,520 if you go to Louis Vuitton's website right now. They come in 4 colors, but he was wearing the green. 4 colors are brown, black, beige, and that green. I mean, I'm all for being comfortable, and slippers with a nice, a nice like solid rubber sole is great because you can wear them in the house and outside of the house, as he did to and from their game here most recently against the Nuggets a couple weeks ago. But that to me is some pretty wild stuff to just wear $2,500 Louis Vuitton house slippers. But I guess if you got $200 or $300 million like James Harden does, you'll be all right.
This is a pretty funny comment. Why are you wearing shoes with another man's initials?
Who's that?
Listen, BK and I don't wear. He's talking about the Louis Vuitton boots.
Oh, well, like I have some British Knights shoes upstairs that just say BK on them, but that's my own initials.
Right. So that makes total sense.
Oh, you know. Yeah. Although Jordan's don't necessarily have his initials, they just have a logo, and lots of people wear a lot of those. I know I certainly do.
Well,
Anyway,
BK, I overall feel pretty good about what the Nuggets are doing right now. Obviously, true test on where they're at. Contenders or pretenders will be the remainder of January and so on and so forth. But also, how can they play back at home, coming off of second leg of a back to back, having to travel, getting back home? That's going to be the true test of how much grit and how much of a championship mentality these guys are playing with right now. And I think they're playing with a lot of it. We're seeing so much improvement defensively by this team. We're seeing so much improvement by Jamal Murray, and I will give him the flowers he so greatly deserves. He had a 45-point game tonight. You have to be excited about that as a Nuggets fan. It's exceptional. So yeah, I'm feeling really good about the position that this Nuggets team is in, but the hard part has only begun. Now it's going to be staying true to this version of yourselves and continuing to level up every single game. And I think Coach Malone talked about it in one of his post-game pressers that right now the Nuggets have like the most games with a rest disadvantage. They have one of the tougher schedules out of anybody in the league. So it's just going to get harder as time goes on. And so that's where you really start to see that contender versus pretender conversation be that much more valuable and important. BK, you and I will be talking tomorrow night after the Nuggets home game. Again, second leg of their back-to-back tomorrow night. And we'll be discussing all things Denver Nuggets. Tomorrow is Rockets?
Houston Rockets come to town.
Yep. That's going to be a good one. It's going
Just
to be a
real
good one,
quick,
ladies and gentlemen.
we'll see this, and we'll pull it up either tomorrow or Thursday on our show. The TNT Tuesday Night Crew have the Spider-Man meme, and it's Jalen, and it's all these Jalens. There's like 20 Jalens in the NBA right now. So
There
they're all
are a
playing
lot
with
of Jalens.
well, shoot, there's 2 Jalen Williams on the Thunder. One Jaylin and
Yes.
right. So 2 Jalens just on the Thunder, but upwards of 18 to 20 Jalen's. So it's a pretty funny meme that I'm sure NBA and TNT will put out there, and we can have some fun with that too. But this was fun seeing the Nuggets. Yes, I grew up a Mavs fan, but I certainly, especially with Mark Cuban selling the team, no more Dirk. I want to see him win last year in the finals once the Nuggets weren't in it, but I'm not living and dying with the Nuggets anymore. And so, with the Mavs anymore. And so seeing the Nuggets get another good win, it's fun covering championship contenders, and hopefully we're covering a championship run and another championship parade. Maybe this will be the year that we get a Nugs and Avs dual parade. I don't think they do it like that.
That would be so flipping fun. That would be so fun. I would love that. I would love nothing more than that. Obviously, this Nuggets team has made some serious improvements since the beginning of the season when we were kind of feeling like,
good thing they didn't fire Michael Malone or trade Jamal Murray yet.
There you go. You see?
Or MPJ for that matter, for Zach LaVine or Jimmy Butler yet.
Yeah, I would really like to hope and think that MPJ is safe past that February 6th deadline. I think that, this Nuggets team is getting back on track, and that's exactly what we needed from them. So I'm feeling excited. We will do another post-game live tomorrow night following the Nuggets home game against the Houston Rockets, who are seated higher than them right now in the Western Conference. Should be a really great game. Hopefully we get Jokic scoring more than 10, but tonight he didn't really need to, so that's all right. I think he's okay with it. I'm okay with it. BK, before we get out of here, our friends over at Landmark Lincoln, everybody go check them out, landmarklincoln.com. They've got a new hybrid car. BK and I have talked about the future of the hybrid cars and whether or not we are going to be jumping ship.
Corsair GT.
Yep, Corsair GT. You can check out over at landmarklincoln.com the incentives that they have to offer you, or stop by and see them on the corner of Bellevue and Broadway. Figure out why they've been Colorado's #1 trusted Lincoln dealer since 1911. That's a long time to be trusted. So shout out to them. And then also, of course, this has been another post-game live reaction Guerrilla Sports off-court show with Liv Moods and Brennan Cristal. And it's presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Just above BK's head there, you can either scan the QR code, or if you're listening, head to trustedamerican.com, see how they can help you save some money by either lowering your monthly payment or your interest rate. So check them out. BK, any final thoughts from you before we get out of here? I know you will be live tomorrow morning with Nate Jackson talking a little bit more Broncos as well as just some NFL playoff talk. But then tomorrow night, Nuggets We'll be doing another post-game live. You'll be getting some stuff from coach and players, and hopefully we can talk to you if Ball Arena's Wi-Fi allows. And yeah, any final thoughts before we get out of here for the night?
Well, just that it was good to see him go to Dallas and beat a lesser team.
Yep.
They obviously did mess around on Sunday, but ultimately they kicked it into gear. And then
They
tonight from the jump, they're like, let's get this over with so we can get home, get rested. Because I didn't check to see, but this is one of those nights. I always talk about these back-to-backs, but I'm pretty sure Houston didn't play tonight, right? So Houston,
They'll
the
be
Rockets are
rested.
chilling in town, checking out the Denver restaurant scene, getting a good night's sleep, while the Nuggets are going to be flying and landing here. Maybe if they're lucky about 1 o'clock in your own bed by 2. No shoot around or anything, but as we always talk about, when you get home, kids, parents, dogs, spouses,
It never
friends,
ends.
whoever lives with you, whatever, folks visiting. It's not unique to the Nuggets. That's all pro athletes in their hometowns or in the towns they play in all the time. And so I think that this will be a good test against a really good Rockets team that has surprised some people. It's the first time they're going to see him, and they'll obviously see him a handful more times. But it'll be good to see them measure up against the Rockets and maybe remind the Rockets, if they come out and play the right way, that, hey, Houston, not saying you won't get there, but it's going to take a little bit longer for you to get revved up to true championship caliber.
Yep, absolutely. Fingers crossed for a good game tomorrow night. BK will be there helping us cover it. I'll be doing a post-game live show, and then we'll toss to BK, get some of those post-game presser clips available for you guys so you can hear from coach and players as soon as the game is done. But for now, we are going to get to bed. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Give Guerrilla Sports a follow on all things social, including subscribing to our YouTube. Give Brandon a follow on all things social, BK Denver Sports. Did I get that right?
You did. When you think of Denver sports, think of BK.
There we go. And then, of course, I'm Liv Moods. Thank you guys so much for being here. Much love to you. Sweet dreams. Have a good night, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Bye.